whatever your day holds. You need a breakfast that helps you get up and go. Up.
And go, go, go.
Up.
And go.
A delicious breakfast shake made with oats and milk. High in fibre, high in protein, high in calcium. Start right with Up and Go. The official breakfast partner of British Swimming. Find us in the cereal aisle.
Sim-only plans? There are always so many tempting options. So you jump headfirst into a long contract, which keeps you locked in for 12 months.
Somebody let me out!
At Labara, we offer great value plans and total flexibility. You can get 10 gigs of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £10 a month. And you can change or cancel anytime.
Now I feel free!
Buy now at labara.co.uk.
Attention please. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Not all supplements are created equal. At HealthSpan, our omega-3 oil is sustainably sourced from the South Pacific Ocean. We find our turmeric in the southern slopes of India. And our cod liver oil comes from the cold, crisp seas off Greenland. We work hard to seek out the best ingredients for our supplements, because that's the HealthSpan way. We're healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements in-store or direct to your door.
The latest in tech suit innovation. Frictionless fiber construction. Surface lift technology. Endo compression cage. Seamless exo shell. Tier Venzo. Battleborn.
Well, good morning to you. It's Saturday morning here in Glasgow, the Tollcross International Swimming Centre. And welcome to session 5. The second set of finals at the British Swimming Glasgow meet. Of course, finals here being swum in the morning, just as a rehearsal for Tokyo in around, well, under 7 weeks' time now. I'm Duncan McKinnell, and along with my co-commentator, Scotland's national coach Alan Lynn, I'll be taking you through the action this morning. And what an exciting set of races we have got. We saw some absolutely sensational swims in last night's heats, and we're looking for some more of that to treat you with this morning. So settle down for the next couple of hours. Swimming will get underway in around about 5 minutes time. We start off with 800 freestyle, women followed by the men. Of course, that's heat declared winner event. We've got 5 swimmers going in the women's race and 6 in the men, including Daniel Jervis, who has already booked a slot on the plane to Tokyo on the distance events. Of course, 800 for the men now included in the Olympic program. 400 individual medley follows that. We saw a sensational swim from Abby Wood in the women's event yesterday, just outside the consideration time. She doesn't do 400 so much recently. Of course, she's been on fire in the shorter events this season, so it would be interesting to see what she can do in that 400 IM. She'll be swimming alongside Hannah Miley, of course, very experienced 400 IM campaigner from multiple Olympic Games. Followed with the men, Max Litchfield will be going. He's already booked his slot for Tokyo in the men's 400 IM. 100 breaststroke follows that, so that's going to be fast and furious. We've got a para event, first of all, with Maisie Summers-Newton, Grace Harvey, who broke her SB5 record last night. See if she can improve on that further. And Ellie Simmons going as well there, so class para threesome there, followed by the able-bodied with Molly Renshaw and Sarah Vasey, both, of course, who have already taken up slots for Tokyo. So they'll be going head-to-head in the centre lanes for the women's 100 breaststroke. Moving on to the men, we start off again with the para event. Scott Quinn, you would think, would be the fancied one there. And then in the main event, we've got a B final as well as an A final. And the A final with the big three in it, Adam Peaty, James Wilby and Ross Murdoch, with Adam and Ross both going under the minute last night. Following that, we have 200 butterfly. We saw an absolutely sensational swim from Laura Stevens, 2:07.04 in the women's heats last night. So she will be in lane 4, looking to see whether she can replicate that. That was inside the Olympic consideration time. Now, technically, you have to do that in the finals, so she'll be very keen to try and replicate or maybe even improve on that. So it will be very interesting to see that and see how she gets on. Then the men after that, Jay Lelliott, the fastest qualifier for the final, but Ed Mildred was not far behind him, just 3/10 in it, so that's going to be interesting. And there might be some competition from elsewhere in the pool, but maybe you'd expect it to be Lelliott versus Mildred in that one. Moving on then to the 200 freestyle. Again, B and A final for the women. In the A final, fastest qualifier, Lucy Hope, the only swimmer to get under the 2 minutes. In the men, we have a para final with Tom Hamer, the fastest there. 3 S14s and the S4 Lyndon Longhorn, who improved on his own British record last night, posting a 3:34. On to the able-bodied, we've got B and A final, and Cameron Curl was absolutely supreme and did a 1:45.6 to lead the field in the A final. He'll have Tom Dean on one side of him, Max Litchfield on the other, and then the likes of James Guy and Duncan Scott elsewhere in the field. So that win could come from anywhere. Duncan Scott, perhaps you'd think, would be the favourite, but he goes in lane 6. Already saw him take the 200 IM from a less fancied lane, so will he do the same in the 200 free this morning? We'll find out. Then we finish off the morning with 50 backstroke. First up, the women with a head-to-head Abby Kane and Ellie Chalice, S13 and S3, so it won't be close in terms of what goes on in the pool, but could be pretty close in terms of para points, that one. And then a treat for you, Kathleen Dawson and Georgia Davis head-to-head in the senior final. Just the faster last night. Kathleen Dawson, of course, been absolutely sensational all through this season so far. So that certainly will be a good one. And then we finish off with the men's 50 backstroke. Scott Gibson pulled off a fast time in the heats to lead the field, 25.76, just ahead of Sterling's Martin Walton. So that one, I think, will be very competitive indeed to finish off the morning session. So lots and lots to look forward to this morning. But settle down, because we start off with 800s. So there'll be around about 8.5 minutes or so of swimming for the women and around about 8 minutes for the men, just to get ourselves into the mood. And that will be kicking off in about 3 minutes' time. Looking to have a nice tidy start to proceedings here in Glasgow, because the first meet back in Scotland since lockdown. Last meet back in March 2020 in Edinburgh International, just before lockdown. And now here we are back swimming in Glasgow this weekend. Of course, a day of celebration for Glasgow as they move down the levels in the Scottish COVID level system from 3 to 2. So Glaswegians generally, I think, would be pretty happy about that. Of course, we are bubbled here. We're all in our hotels and then in the pool and nowhere in between. So senior athletes, of course, getting well used to that. We do have a number of junior swimmers swimming in the afternoon sessions, and of course for them it's a first event post-lockdown. So they're also getting used to the protocols and what you have to do in this modern post-COVID world, and good preparation for them ahead of the Festival of Swimming. You'll have seen the announcements throughout the country as to what is going on there during the month of July across the country in lots of different venues around Britain. But you can see the athletes coming out now for our first event, the women's 800 freestyle, and coming out into lane 6 is Fleur Lewis. She represents Ellesmere College Titans. Next to her, Emily Clark of Loughborough University. Michaela Glenister of University of Stirling in lane 4. Lauren Wetherill, Ellesmere College in 3. They're on the right of your screen, and there in the green from Wickham District is Ella Dyson. So that is the lineup for our first event. Times here: 8:43 Michaela Glenister, up to 8:54 Ella Dyson. So in theory this should be pretty close. Doesn't always work out like that, of course, and swimmers will be at different levels of preparation depending on their individual programs. Nice coordination of light green suits there in lanes 2, 3 and 4 versus the black and the pink in 5 and 6. So onto the blocks and we're ready to go. So just running through the field again, Ella Dyson of Wickham District goes in lane 2, Lauren Wetherill of Ellesmere College in 3, Michaela Glenister of University of Stirling in 4, Emily Clark of Loughborough University in 5, and Fleur Lewis of Ellesmere College Titans in lane 6. So Emily Clark, maybe just getting the early running on. In fact, no, it's lane 3, Lauren Wetherill, the Ellesmere College swimmer, part of the Scottish Performance Programme, Gold Squad member, 3rd in the British trials. Emily Clark actually beat her in London. She was 2nd. Laura Crisp, who won that event, not swimming this weekend. So chance for these other swimmers to show what they can do through the 100. 1:02.36 for Lauren. She leads by nearly a second and a half, so setting off pretty well here. Ella Dyson in the green of Wickham. Well, there or thereabouts. I think Emily Clark probably still has 2nd. I was talking about the Edinburgh International as the last event in Scotland before lockdown. That's actually where Lauren posted her 8:49 entry time, winning that event. So immediately before lockdown, and let's see what she can do after lockdown. Of course, she has competed, as I said, at London already. But she's settling down into a nice rhythm now, about a body length lead over Emily and Ella, and a little bit further back Michaela and Fleur. About what, 6 meters between the field through 200, 2:09.29. So fairly much at 1:07 split for Lauren. It is clearly now Emily Clark in 2nd. Maybe signs, is she picking up the pace a bit perhaps and coming up to challenge Lauren? We'll get a sense of that at this turn. Still nearly a body length in it. You see the static camera covering the turn end. So Lauren 2:43.12 and Emily 2:44.07, so pretty much a 2nd in it. So if they can hold this 67 pace, we're looking for around 3:16 at this next split, 300 meters. I think we're going to be pretty much on cue for that. Just slightly, well, 3:16, there we go. Perhaps so about half a second slower than the second 100. Still a second gap between the two of them. And Ella Dyson staying in touch. Michaela there on the right-hand side, and Fleur. I was just losing touch a bit now. They're, what, 10 meters or so back. It does look like Emily is cutting into the lead a bit now. Down to half a second. Still Ella Dyson hanging in there. She was 7th in the British trials, British summer champion in this pool back in 2019. So that'll be fond memories for her. And certainly at the moment looking like she can get a top 3 position here at this meet. So that was halfway for 24.91. So we have dropped now pacing to 68, just over. Emily 4:25.62, so 7/10 the gap now. You would think maybe Emily will fancy taking a bit of a move at some point here. Dyson working hard, a faster stroke rate than the other two, but she's staying in touch very nicely. But you think maybe at some point in the proceedings here, someone's going to make a move. Either Lauren perhaps try and push away from the other two, or perhaps Emily or Ella mount a challenge. Still a fair way to go, 300 at the next turn. So another 1:08, we'd be talking about 5:33 here. That's what we've got, 5:33.58. Again, perhaps just about half a second drop in pace. And the pace has just gradually dropped through this race. We'll see whether they'll be able to pick it up again in the closing stages. Certainly looks like Emily Clark might be starting to do that now. Is this the time she makes her move? Certainly is pretty much alongside Lauren now. Still just Lauren, but the lead has shrunk down to 1/4 of a second. And credit to Ella Dyson, she is still right in there. So it's very much a three-way contest here. And you wouldn't like to call a winner at the moment. Although Emily Clark perhaps is the one who is perhaps going to be mount the threat, but well, don't quote me on that. 6:42.73. So we're down to 69 now. So it is going to be about back-end speed, I think, now. The three of them all in contention within a meter of each other. So who's going to have the pace at the end of this race? Like for the first time, we've got Emily Clark touching there, 1400ths ahead of Lauren Weatherall. And look at Ella Dyson, she is right in the mix still. With Emily Clark. It's just opened up a bit of a gap now. Be the bell this turn. So let's see what lead she's got. Maybe a meter. 7:51.33. Certainly picked up the pace a bit in that penultimate 100. And now it's about what they've got in the tank for a final sprint. Emily Clark, you'd think now would be the fancied one. Her time, 8:45, came from the British Championships here in the spring of 2019. She's not going to match that time, but she is going to take the win. It looks like 8:24.91 with 50 to go. The race now is for second, with Ella Dyson fancying her chances, I think, to go past the long-time leader, Lauren Wetherill, and has gone past her now as they are halfway down the final length. She'll have a go at trying to catch Emily, but I think she's got too much in hand, and she's going to take this probably by around about 3 meters, 2-3 meters. So it is Emily who comes in and takes the win, 8:57.93. In second place, Ella Dyson, 8:59.26. Lauren Wetherill just over the 9 minutes, 9:00.27 in third place. Fleur Lewis in fourth, and Michaela Glenister in fifth, 9:07 and 9:12. So steady racing there. I think probably reflecting where swimmers are in their training program, not matching entry times, but you probably wouldn't expect that. Given these swimmers' position, they will be in a hard batch of training, I'm sure, leading up to the Festival of Swimming in July, which I'm sure they'll use as their benchmark meet for the season, as will so many other swimmers around the country. So confirming there that it was Emily Clark taking the win. Ella Dyson, very good second. Lauren Wetherill third. So it's going to be the turn of the men once the ladies clear the stage. Of course, we have to create space between these events, get the protocols operating. They get dispatched to the training pool area. Underneath that big gallery that you're looking at, there is a 6 by 50 meter pool. For the purposes of this weekend, that's been split into two 25 meter pools, and swimmers get their opportunity to swim down in that pool after the race, and of course some warm-up as well. But on to the men's 800 freestyle now, and the swimmers making their way on. We have Joseph Dion of Millfield School in lane 7, William Bell, Loughborough University in 6th. There's Kieran Bird of the Bath National Centre in lane 5. From Swansea University, Dan Jervis will go into lane 4. I think would be a fairly heavy favourite for this, but you never know. Luke Turley, also Bath National Centre, he goes in 3. And there is Joshua Williams of Wickham District. So we saw a great swim from Wickham's Ella Dyson from the women's event. So we'll see whether Josh can match that for the men. So there is the confirmation of the lineup for you. 6 swimmers involved. I'm glad to say we've managed to get Alan Lynn out of his bed now, and welcome, Alan. Glad you can join us.
Morning, Duncan. Yeah, I couldn't get my race suit on, it was a bit tight.
Yeah, I know the feeling. So you've seen a good women's 800 freestyle. Now we've got the men to come up. Of course, Dan Jervis already has booked his slot to Tokyo. Do you think we can see something exciting to challenge him? Maybe Kieran Bird or
yeah, it's
Luke
difficult to know just where everybody's at the moment. Obviously, those going to Tokyo are in a phase of training with a bit of racing added. Not sure what sort of shape Kieran is in. Obviously, the fantastic 400 free trials. I'm not sure if anyone will get close to those two.
So just run through the lineup for you again. Josh Williams of Wickham District is in lane 2. Luke Turley of Bath National Centre in 3. Dan Jervis, Swansea University in 4. Kieran Bird of Bath National Centre in 5. William Bell of Loughborough University in 6. Joseph Dean of Millfield School in lane 7. So talking about Kieran Bird, I mean, he was very close in London. He did a 7:50.75. The consideration time 7:49.96. So he only needs to knock a second off his London time to take the place there. In fact, there's Dan Jervis also hasn't got a consideration time for the 800. I imagine that, of course, he has it for the 1500. So if he wanted to swim both, I'm sure that the British team would be happy for that, subject to his programme.
Yeah, I think once the team is finalised, the discussions around events, who's doing what and why, will take place. It's not unusual for those discussions to already have taken place, but of course pending other decisions, have to wait until events are closed and all entries are confirmed.
Luke Turley has certainly set off at pace in lane 3. He was 3rd in London. Now Dan Jervis just up on his shoulder. So it's these two with a reasonable healthy gap. Will Bell in lane 6, just leading Kieran Bird at the moment.
Yeah, these two scrapped it out on the 1500, didn't they, yesterday? And in the end, Dan Jervis just pulled away at a certain point in the race, and depending, of course, on what people do as the tactics, whether they're swimming evenly or negative or whatever, progressively through the distance, it's a bit too early to tell on that. But certainly, if they could push each other on, we might see a decent swim.
So pretty much on the minute there for that second 100, and maybe just signs that Dan Jervis opening up a little bit of a gap now, and Luke Turley settling into a more measured pace with his fast first length. Also signs that William Bell's looking to take this one pretty seriously. I remember Will coming up as a youngster when swimming with City of Leicester, coming up to Scotland a few times, and certainly showing our age group as a thing or two about distance swimming.
Yeah, very welcome. They were too, the Leicester swimmers who came and joined us for those meets over quite a few years. Certainly pushed our youngsters on and set the standard for them, really. And Will has transitioned nicely into a very decent senior swimmer now.
2:54.75. So Dan Jervis just up the pace a bit there, just over a 59 for his third 100, and you can see the effect that that's had. He's opened up now a gap of 5 or so meters. So he's taking this seriously, Alan. This is certainly not a training exercise for him. He's pushing it out pretty fast.
No, he's one of the most diligent swimmers in training and in racing, is Daniel Jervis. A very fine young man, a credit to himself, his family and everyone around him. And obviously in Swim Wales, very proud of him too. He's a terrific advert for our sport, and in particular for distance swimming.
I think I mentioned it during the 1500, but he'll have fond memories of this pool with a bronze medal in 2014 for Wales in the 1500.
Yeah, that was well, quite some event, but quite some race that he took part in. I was sitting beside some people from the Delta Welsh delegation, and they were absolutely thrilled to bits with his swim, his breakout swim.
Yeah, he was quite a youngster back in those days, just 18. Of course, things have moved on a bit, 7 years on. Now, the experienced campaigner. And a very healthy lead for him now, around about 8 meters over Will Bell and Luke Turley. So I think any thoughts of consideration times for anyone other than Dan is probably pretty much out the window now.
Yeah, long gone. I think really it's about the minor places, as we often say in commentary, but out in front, Dan Jervis is swimming nicely. Great balanced stroke. I think yesterday we talked in the women's 800 in the afternoon about leg kick and whether it should be 2 beat or 6 beat. And Dan swims with a 6 beat kick all the way through, which has very much become the modern way.
That must be pretty draining, you would think. I suppose you just build up the strength to be able to do it.
You do, of course, that's what training prepares you for, but the biggest muscles in your body are around your legs, top of your legs, so a 6 beat kick puts an awful lot of stress on the legs, but yeah, that's why they do a lot of kicking, that's why he's a great kicker and of course a great swimmer.
So it'll be 600 metres at the next turn, and you can see now nobody else in shot. It's all Dan. Coming up to that turn. The clock shows 5:54.72, so pretty much on the minute now. So I think maybe something in the low 750s, assuming that he puts in a little bit of a sprint finish. 7:52, 7:53 maybe, something in that order.
Yeah, it'll probably depend just on how fatigued he is from his efforts already. Yeah, he'll certainly go 58 on that last 100, possibly even quicker. He may pick it up at this 150 to go mark.
Turley just getting a little bit of an advantage now over Will Bell. See there, 31.1 against 31.8, 7/10 the gap between those two. But it'll be the bell for Dan coming up. So another minute would be 6:54 here. So right on that, 6:54.73. So let's see whether he does up his pace in this final 100. It looks like his stroke rate's increasing a little bit. Leg's still going very strongly. Turn. Luke Turley now looks to have second place sewn up. He's around 3 meters ahead of Will Bell now. So 7:24.29. So that was about 29.5 for his penultimate 50. Let's see how hard he pushes it now down these last 15 meters.
It's difficult to get out of the habits of a lifetime, picking up the pace on the last 50.
So here he goes, and a very nice swim. 7:52.60. So he did finish on a 58. Second place, Luke Turley, 7:59.53. And in third place, just over the 8 minutes, Will Bell, 8:01.60. Very close to the time he did in London, did 8:00 in London, Will. Kieran Bird coming in for fourth, 8:10. And Joe Dean, 8:18. Josh Williams, 8:28. So some really solid freestyle distance swimming there, particularly from Dan. You would expect him to swim the 800 in Tokyo as well as the 15, or do you think they'll save his powder just for the 15?
I think he'll do it. I do. You're all the way to the Olympic Games, and of course your main event is the 1500 that's spread over now with the heats in the evening, finals in the morning format spread over almost 10 days. So plenty of opportunity for these distance guys to recover, and many of the 1500 metre swimmers, not necessarily from the UK, will be swimming in the open water as well. So yeah, these guys are extremely well conditioned. I see no reason why Dan and his coach and the British team staff wouldn't want him to do the 8 and the 15. The 400 is more of a discussion, I think, for them, but certainly those two distance events he'll almost certainly do in Japan.
So the athletes again just leaving the poolside as we take a little bit of a breath before we move on to our next event, the women's 400 individual medley. You have to have been impressed last night, Alan, on the swim that came in from Abbey Wood. You think of her shorter distance, although back in the day I think she swam quite a lot of 400 IM, but not so much recently.
Yeah, she was hugely impressive yesterday in the final in the morning in the 200, and of course the heat of the 400 that we're about to see the final of. 4:30 was a great swim, very controlled all the way through, and if she gives it a good go this morning, you might get quite a nice surprise in terms of the quality of time that she does. It's a very open event internationally, and we have Hosu, obviously, who's the world record holder, defending champion, and very much the lady to beat. But if you can get down to the low 4:30s, you're in with a shot of being on the podium.
So they're coming on now. We just saw Yvonne Brown, who's on her way to lane 8, and there she is. And there, Nova Centurion's Freya Colbert moving towards lane 7. Katie Shannon, who's having a pretty good meet in her home pool, will go into lane 6. Certainly expect to see her in Rome in the European Juniors. And the very experienced Hannah Miley, University of Aberdeen, goes in 5. And Abby Wood, who we were talking about, from Loughborough National Centre to lane 4. Millfield School's Lily Booker in lane 3. There's B. Varley of Plymouth Leander. She'll swim in lane 2. And Amber Keegan from the City of Sheffield will swim in lane 1. So the lineup confirmed for you there. So Hannah Miley obviously has had a very difficult couple of years. As a very experienced Olympian, do you think she could pull something out of the bag here, or is it just not going to be it because of all of the injuries she's had? What do you think?
Yeah, it depends what you mean by pull something out the bag. I think the Olympic standard is a tough ask for her, despite all of her experience and, of course, her determination. And with Amy Wilmot already in that event, I'm not certain that Abby would want to do it, even if she does the standard. Come Tokyo, she's got an important schedule of individual and relay events. But I would expect Hannah to get under 440, which is back to where she was.
So we'll see. Abby in lane 4, Hannah in lane 5. And others as well. The youngster Katie Shanahan, Lily Booker, 20-year-old, in lane 3. We'd expect them not to be right up at the front at the end of this, but you never know. Certainly Abby Wood is looking good at the start of this, in the black cap in lane 4. So 4:38.20 was faster than her entry time, 4:40.44, which she did back in the spring of 2019 at the British Championships here. You always think of Hannah Miley as not particularly pushing it out on the fly, but she's going pretty nicely here.
Duncan, I'm certain that Hannah will give this her very, very best shot, and if she is in any way back to close to her best, she will certainly go under 440 and threaten that Olympic standard time. We're just not sure because we haven't seen any racing out of this quality from her, whether she's in that kind of shape or not. But 64.4 out, pretty good start for these two up front.
Yep, and side by side, which can only help as well to have two really going at it. Katie Shanahan, the youngster from the City of Glasgow, in third place, a very exciting prospect in backstroke and medley.
I saw Hannah Miley swim just a couple of weeks back, and one thing that took my eye was how good her backstroke was looking, which would be an indication that she was getting herself back into reasonable shape. We know what her other strokes are like, but if she's in any way on form, this backstroke leg will give us a good guide.
And this is an impressive backstroke leg from Katie Shannon, isn't she? She's come right up alongside them. We know she's a great backstroker, and she's really demonstrating that. Look how smooth she is.
Yeah, 209, sixth place at the European Championships for the youngster, and swimming in her home pool, of course. She's been in isolation and quarantine on the way back from Budapest, but it's not stopping her swim well here.
Yep, so has the lead at the halfway mark, 2:17.02. Also going very nicely over in lane 1 is Amber Keegan. She's not too far away from the mix, so we've got 4 swimmers up there. Freya Colbert as well in lane 7, not too far back, but well, you would think that it would be Wood, Miley, and maybe Katie Shannon staying with them. And well, Abby Wood, great breaststroker, great freestyler as well, as we saw in the relays in Budapest. And she has opened up a pretty healthy lead. We know, of course, Hannah is pretty handy on both those events as well, freestyle and breaststroke, but it's Abby Wood now who is pushing the boat out. Hannah Miley and Katie Shanahan pretty much side by side, and they are now starting to pull away from the others. And well, Abby has maybe made a decisive break here, you feel.
Yeah, she is the class act as a breaststroker in this field, having swum 2:21 earlier in this season. It may or may not be on her Olympic programme, but she's certainly a world-class swimmer in breaststroke.
So coming up to the 300, and she goes through in 3:34.54. Miley 3:38, and Shanahan 3:39. That's beginning now to look like that's going to be the 1, 2, 3, as surely nobody is going to catch Abby Wood. She's got a lead of about 7-8 meters now over Hannah Miley. Coming up to the final turn. 4:07.
So it'll be just about the same as she went last night, I think, around 4:37, 38 mark.
So Hannah Miley and Katie Shannon will have to settle for second and third. So let's see what time Abby Wood can finish this on. As we said, 4:38.20 last night. She's going to be a little bit outside that, but another excellent swim to back up last night's performance. 4:39.96 for her. Hannah Miley 4:44 dead. Again, slightly slower than she was last night, so I suspect maybe just pushed it hard in that first half and then just struggled to keep that pace going in the second. 4:45.42 for Katie Shannon. That's an excellent time for her. Okay. Pretty close to the 4:43 that she's entered on, which was the time she did at Euro Juniors back in 2019. So confirming the positions there. Wood, Miley, Shanahan, the 1, 2, 3. Lily Booker 4th. Colbert, Keegan, Varley and Brown completing the finish order. So why do you think Abby's, if she's not going to swim this in Tokyo, and obviously didn't achieve the time, so wouldn't be swimming it probably, but what would have been her rationale for swimming it here?
I think very much a training exercise, Duncan, that there's nothing gets you in shape better than racing. Of course, you can't do that all the time. You have to balance everything and have some perspective on what your objectives are being. Physically, technically, physiologically, even it may well have been something that she and her coach decided to do just to test her mentally with the heats finals flipped format. She's certainly getting out of the pool gingerly there. I'm imagining the lactate is beginning to just course through her veins as she walks to pick up her placky bag. I was offered a cupboard full of placky bags, by the way, somebody who was listening to the commentary yesterday afternoon. Thank you, Andrew Addison. I'll decline the offer, thanks. The environment's bad enough without adding more plastic bags. But yeah, Abby's very much back into full training, and this will be part of that exercise. She's slowest walking back with her bags, that's for sure, so she's pretty fatigued.
And she's going to have a busy time I think, pretty much whatever she swims in Tokyo. So would it be part of that as well as the sort of testing the endurance and the swimming multiple events over a relatively short period of time?
Yeah, definitely. When you've got heats and semi-finals and finals in the many of the individual events, plus relay heats and relay finals, and the cycling of that, the clashes sometimes of those things, it's important that you know your strategies for warming up, for preparing, priming yourself before your race, and for recovery, session to session, day to day, event to event.
So on to the men now, and you're seeing Ben Harrison, Loughborough University, going into lane 8, and there's Angus Allison of Warrender to lane 7. Brodie Williams of Bath National Centre making his way to lane 6. There's Mark Sharanek of the University of Stirling. He'll swim in lane 5. He's got his place on the plane to Tokyo. Max Litchfield of Loughborough National Centre. He'll be in lane 4. There's Charlie Hutchison from Loughborough University in 3. Will Riley of Bath University is in 2. And George Smith, the junior from Ellesmere College Titans. 2 juniors actually in this final. The other one, Angus Allison, in lane 7. So both George and Angus, I think, will be hoping to be on the trip to Rome in the summer. So we'll see how they do, but certainly would think this will be Max Litchfield for 16 in yesterday's heats. Just did the 4:13 required time. Brodie Williams also made that time. That was probably a bit of a shock in London, I think, that Brodie did that. But he will go in lane 6. Mark Sharanek in between them. Knows his way around 400 IM very well. On the way. 4:12.95 was the time that Max did to make the qualification standard. Would you expect him to be able to replicate something like that this morning?
Yeah, I think he'll get closer to that than maybe what they've done on some of the shorter distance events, simply because he is well conditioned. This is an endurance-based event. I don't think he'll exactly match that, but I don't think he'll be too far away, and he's swimming well. I just was saying yesterday, watching him swim to a colleague, that I thought he was looking great, particularly on the freestyle, so we will expect him to come back strongly, but he's setting the pace as he always tries to do. A world-class swimmer on this event, and he's got some good guys around him who will help to push him on over the 4 strokes.
So up by just a metre or so at the end of the butterfly, 57.74. Hutchison just ahead of Sharanek in second place. A couple of tenths only between those two, and Brodie Williams in the white cap in lane 6, not far away either. Litchfield with the advantage. And if anything, slightly building that. Charlie Hutchison looking good on backstroke. He has broken clear of Sharanek and Williams. Brodie Williams into second place. Around maybe 3 meters in it between Litchfield and Hutchison. Charlie Hutchison, 4th in Euro Juniors back in 2019, now making that transition to the senior ranks at Loughborough. He's 4th in this event at the London Trials. 2:02.67 for Max, leads by 3 seconds now. Williams will be pushing Hutchison, I suspect, in this breaststroke. They are pretty much stroke for stroke now. And Mark Sharanek just a bit back on them. As we see Max Litchfield continuing to stretch it out. Well, both the Litchfields great all-rounders, aren't they? There's no weaknesses at all across the stroke range. Where would you say Max, is he stronger in any of the one compared with others?
Well, I guess if he was making his name outside of medley, it would be on freestyle. But really, I think as we've said a number of times, particularly on the 400 IM, you need to be good at all four strokes. There's no room for a weakness, really.
So he certainly ticks that box. The lead has built in each of the 3 strokes we've seen so far. And it's now a very healthy, 11, 12 meters as he goes through in 3:14.65.
I think if he gets into the 4:13s, which is eminently possible from that split, within range of a second of what he did in London, I think he'll be delighted with that. He and his coach will be pleased with his attack, with his conditioning, with his skills, and of course with how he's dominating this race. He's almost half a pull length ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, it's certainly over 15 meters now with a good race going on for second. Charlie Hutchison holding off Brodie Williams still. In fact, if anything, maybe just building that lead up a bit more. But let's concentrate on Max as he comes down this final length. There's the halfway marker, and he is pushing it on nicely down this last length. We talked about his strength of freestyle, and he's really driving it hard. See the clock. So this is going to be an excellent time. Wow. Well, he has to be absolutely delighted with that 4:12.81. So really, really good. That again, another time inside the Olympic consideration time. He said his time in London was 4:12.67, so just 1400ths off that here in Glasgow in the middle of peak training. Wow.
Yeah, that's terrific. Like we said during the race there, endurance-based event, easier to keep hold of that kind of fitness than it is on maybe some of the middle distance events. But yeah, he'll be delighted. He's really come on strong since the trials, including swims at Europeans and earlier on in this meet this weekend. He'll be well pleased with that for sure.
So Charlie Hutchison 4:23.38, Brodie Williams 4:24.13, picking up second and third respectively. A good tussle between those two, and Charlie, I think, will be, he's a little bit off the entry time, but not too much. 4:22.76 he did last night. So you would think he'd be reasonably satisfied with that as well?
Yeah, I think so. As you said, he's making the transition from junior to senior. He gave out a yelp of what can only be described as IM pain at the end, and he's limping. He's not quite staggering his way off the deck there, but he's certainly, as I think we saw with Abbey Wood just a few moments ago, feeling the effects, as is Max. In fact, they all are of that 400 IM, let's be honest. You can tell with the redness on the back of the shoulders, which is not quite in shot, but yeah, there's a lot of swimming down to be done now.
But it's good that they are putting so much into it, and it really shows that they're taking this meet very seriously, even if they are not gunning for a one of the final Olympic spots. So good stuff, and really shows the dedication, I guess, to the process and trying to get everything as good as it can be ahead of Tokyo.
Yeah, there's been a dearth of competition for those outside of really the top echelon, so everyone taking this meet seriously, as you say, but also I think attempting to move the performances on from where they left them off in 2019 or 2020.
So we've got an interesting para event coming up now, the women's 100 breaststroke. There's going to be 3 swimmers in it, 2 SB6s and SB5. And yeah, here is one of them. And it's Ellie Simmons coming towards lane 5, swimming, of course, SB6. There is Grace Harvey. She set a new SB5 British record last night in the heats, 1:41.79. And then Maisie Summers-Newton, SB6 swimmer. she did 134 last night, so that was a pretty strong performance. Only just outside her British record, and certainly you would feel that you're looking at some of the very best para-swimming breaststrokers in these classifications, and ones who will be hoping for big things in Tokyo at the Paras.
Yeah, a lot of expectation on these three women and their teammates in the Paralympics taking place, as you say, in Tokyo slightly later in the summer. These are world-class swimmers in every sense of that, and it's a pleasure to see them competing in this breaststroke event.
Yes, so interesting, because Maisie will be there from her time performance at the World Para Championships in 2019, where she's silver medalist. That got her consideration for the Paralympic Games. Grace Harvey made a time at the British Para International, but Ellie Simmons, you feel she's got some work to do if she is to get onto that plane. She is there alongside Grace Harvey, with Maisie Summers-Newton leading the way. As I said, she was the fastest 134 last night. She turns in 43.18. 47s for the other two, 47.36 for Grace Harvey, 47.96 for Ellie Simmons. So Maisie looking good for this course. The result will be based on para points. We'll have to wait for that as to whether Maisie's, who certainly looks like she'll beat Ellie Simmons, but whether her point score will be higher than Grace Harvey's, who is in a lower classification, we'll have to wait and see. But certainly pushing it out strongly here. 134.15 was her time last night. I think she's going to be inside that. Oh, yes, she is. 134.01, just half a second outside her British record. So good solid swim from Maisie there. Let's check on Grace Harvey's time, 141.42, and that is a new British record for her, improving her time by 3/10 from last night. So new British record, Grace Harvey. Ellie Simmons just ahead of her, 140.90. Just a second outside the para consideration time, so well, she'll, I think, be hoping for a discretionary pick, I guess, having not made the time, so we'll see how that transpires. But there's confirmation. Maisie Summers-Newton putting in another excellent swim. Grace Harvey, new British record, 141.42, and we will shortly give you the para points once they come through. So that was the para event, some good stuff there. British record, of course, so excellent to see that once again, looking good now for Grace, and definitely for Maisie as well. So these girls take their leave, and we get ourselves set up for the senior final. And you'd expect this one, Alan, to be a Renshaw-Vasey shootout?
I think it should be. Talking of world-class swimmers, got a whole lineup of them again here. A bit of a repeat of the trials final almost. Yeah, I think just from what we see in front of us and also what we saw in Budapest the other week, women's breaststroke is highly competitive across the world, and of course not forgetting our American cousins whose trials, Mark 1 started yesterday and Mark 2 in a week or so's time. They've got the best in the world, and That's certainly the standard to beat is a young woman called Lily King.
So the lineup here, Megan Morrison goes in lane 8 for Loughborough University. Maya Hall of Ellesmere College in 7. 6 is Guildford City's Alicia Wilson. We have the 2 from Loughborough National Centre, Sarah Vasey in 5, Molly Renshaw in 4. Edinburgh University's Cara Hanlon is in 3. Anna Morgan of Millfield, you can see her in the green cap there, in lane 2. And Katie Robertson of Edinburgh University in lane 1. Confirmation of the lineup for you. So the times last night, both 107s for Renshaw and Vasey, 107.43 for Molly, 107.94 for Sarah.
The meeting in the middle here, Sarah outstanding on the 50, Molly outstanding on the 200. The meet in the middle, winner takes all.
And of course, this will be the little matter of who takes the breaststroke slot in the medley relay as well. So that will be very interesting for the coaching team in Tokyo.
It will indeed. They're sitting to my left, I'm sure, taking notes.
So off we go. Let's see who can impress here. Let's don't discount the others. Alicia Wilson has the Olympic spot from the medley. She goes in 6. Cara Hanlon's shown some good form this season in lane 3. The Scot based in Edinburgh, originally from the Western Isles. But it is Sarah Vasey, I think, who's just got the edge, although there's not an awful lot in it. At halfway, let's see who gets the touch. Yep, Vasey 31.68, just 300ths ahead of Cara Hanlon. So can she just get in about the 2 from Loughborough? She's certainly sticking pretty close to them. Maybe signs now on the second half that Molly Renshaw is coming through, so using that 200 endurance, but Sarah Vasey coming back at her. This is going to be very close between them. They've just got a little bit of an edge now over Cara Hanlon. So who's going to get this one? It's going to be all about finishing skills here as we come down into the last few meters. The touch just goes to Renshaw. 107.45, up by a tenth. 107.55 from Sarah Vasey. She was 4/10 faster than she was last night. Molly Renshaw pretty much exactly the same time. And then Cara Hanlon taking 3rd in 108.72. Good racing, and you definitely saw the sprinter versus the 200er there with the first half versus second half.
No question about it, yeah, and both girls will be pleased with their morning's work in that final. I'm sure plenty more to come from them as the summer develops. Note of interest, Alicia Wilson, of course, who's swimming medley, tuna medley in Tokyo, doing a nice job there on the 100 breaststroke, and the specialist breaststroke is, of course, ahead of her, Cara Hanlon, Sarah Vasey and Molly Renshaw.
Yep, so some really good stuff there. Do you think there's a psychological thing there about just getting the touch over your training partner and rival?
I would hope so. Swimmers race to win, always, no matter whether that's in a last repeat of a set in training or whether it's in a meet situation like this. Every single one of them wants to get their hands on the wall first, or their hand on the wall first. So yeah, for sure. I don't think it's a big deal, but I'm sure between them they'll have a smile and a chat about it when they swim down. But yeah, if you get your hand on the wall first, there's always just that little extra edge, if you like, knowing that you can do it, knowing you have done it.
So we move to the men's 100 breaststroke now. We start off with the para-final. Chap Milne coming out to his lane, which will be number 6, SB14 swimmer from Dundee City Aquatics. Connor Morrison, another SB14er from Aberdeen Performance. There is Scott Quinn with Fancy Pants, swimming for Warrender in lane 4. Gavin Roberts of City of Glasgow is in lane 3, and in lane 2, Will Perry from Northampton. He is an SB6 swimmer, so we've got 4 SB14s, and then Will Perry, I think, will be swimming his own race, SB6. So Just needs to ignore the shootout that will be going on between the SB14s. You'd fancy Scott Quinn, you would think, but Conor Morrison has surprised him before in the past, so we'll see.
He has. Quinny, as we know him, did a nice PB on his 50 breaststroke just yesterday, so he'll be, I think, pleased with his swim so far. Conor, of course, is just a smidgen away from the Paralympic standard, although he competed really well for a silver medal in Madeira at the Europeans just a week or two ago as well. So yeah, great, keen racing. 4 Scots in here that very familiar to you and I, Duncan and William Perry, also another outstanding para swimmer on the far side.
So Scott Quinn, I think, pretty much has his place booked because he was World Championship top 2, silver medalist. Silver medalist, of course, in Rio. 1:07.75 is the consideration time for the SB14s. And certainly it looks like Conor in lane 5 is pushing it out hard down this first length. He's got the advantage, maybe half a metre or so over Scott Quinn, and Gavin Roberts going nicely as well in lane 3 in that distinctive blue City of Glasgow cap. Jack Milne also trying to stay close to them, but it's going to be Morrison just, I think, at halfway, although very close between them. Let's just see. In fact, it was Quinn getting the touch. 31.91, 32.07 for Morrison, 32.24 for Roberts. So now it is just Scott Quinn, and I guess important that Conor Morrison can push it hard here if he's to try and get that time. But Quinn now starting to move away from him, using the skills of the second half. He usually is a good second half swimmer in the 100 breaststroke, and we're seeing that here. He's now a body length clear. Let's see what the time's going to be for him. He's in the 1:07s, 1:07.40 for Scott Quinn, replicating pretty much to the 100th his time from last night. Morrison 1:09.35, so a bit away from the time he would have been hoping for. As we see Will Perry coming in, so his time last night was 1:32.58, and he's nicely inside that, 1:30.66. So good progression there from Will from heats to finals. So 1:07.40 for Scott. Will he be happy with that?
Yeah, just counting his strokes a little bit there, I think, Scott, in terms of trying to lengthen out his stroke. Not quite the same attack that we might see from him later in the summer, but yeah, very controlled, 32.0 out, and he'll be well pleased with that swim overall. I think the execution was exactly what he and his coach Matt Trodden were planning for.
And maybe Conor Morrison would have liked to have been a bit stronger in the second half.
Yeah, Conor only knows one way to swim, really, and that's to attack it from the start. You can only do so many races like that before I think you have to just change your tactics a wee bit. I'd like to see him lengthen his stroke a bit more controlled. He doesn't have to go out any faster, particularly. I just think he needs to spend less effort on that first 50, and he'll be able to come back stronger. He'll be disappointed with the time, but I do think he's someone who, with the work that he does in Aberdeen with coach Gregor McMillan, he is improving season on season, and he's someone still to watch. He's a bit younger than Scott, and I think very much once he sorts out that stroke count, he'll be somebody to watch in the future.
So we now have a B final, our first B final of the morning, men's 100 breaststroke. So the swimmers making their way out to the blocks. That's the lineup for you. Bradley Newman goes in lane 1 for City of Cardiff. Adam Chillingworth of Plymouth Leander in 2. Kyle Boyack of Edinburgh University in 3. David Bloomfield of Loughborough University in 4. Eugene Cook of Edinburgh University in 5. Archie Goodburn of Loughborough University in 6. William Ellington of Millfield School in 7. And Harvey Freeman of Northampton in lane 8. A couple of juniors in this one, Will Ellington and Harvey Freeman. some more experienced swimmers. Boyek, 29-year-old David Bloomfield, 22-year-old. Eugene Cook, the Irishman, in his first season at Edinburgh. He was fourth recently in the Irish trials. Another opportunity to compete at a high level here.
They're very fast, those Irish trials were, and congratulations to the Irish team at the Europeans who used it to try and qualify the relay teams for Tokyo, and although the decisions have still to be confirmed on that, looks like they might get a men's relay team to Japan, which would be fantastic, fantastic work. Of course, benefiting from two Scottish coaches, and John Srannick and Ben Hickson. If you're listening, chaps, great work, keep it up.
Yeah, and Eugene Cook certainly was one of John Srannick's charges in the west of Ireland, Limerick based. So we'll see how he does here. David Bloomfield, the fastest last night, 1:03.03. Just missed a place in the A final by half a second. But they do get the chance for this second swim, and they'll be looking to take full advantage of that. So into their strokes now, and Bloomfield in lane 4 is certainly up there. Kyle Boyek in the black cap in lane 3, and also looking good in 6, Archie Goodburn. Soon them is Cook in lane 5. It does look like Bloomfield is going to touch first at the halfway mark. Nice arrow shape there as they come into the wall. 28.96. Boyek pushing on in a lane 3, then not much in it between Cook and Goodburn in 5 and 6, and also Chillingworth in lane 2 is in that mix as well. But David Bloomfield looks to have the measure of the rest of the field here, still holding around about a meter's advantage. Maybe Adam Chillingworth coming through to mount the challenge, but just running out of pool time before he could get there. He wasn't far away in the end, just 1500ths, but it was Bloomfield 1:02.74 against Chillingworth 1:02.89, and Oisin Cook taking third 1:03.40. So David Bloomfield taking 3/10 off his heat swim, so nice bit of progression there.
Yeah, he was 17 strokes on the way down, 23 on the way back, so just shortening a little. It looked good for about 75, 80 metres, and then just started to shorten the stroke a little bit. I'm sure he and his coach will be working hard at executing that better. Some tired looking bodies in there this morning. Duncan remarked on it after the 400 IM, but I don't mean tired from racing, that's obvious. I think tired from the overall exertions. It's been quite a time for everybody. It's great to see them all here in great shape. Certainly beginning to take its toll, I think, on some of the people who've raced in all these meets this year.
Yes, I guess you think, oh, there's been no swimming going on, but for these elite swimmers, actually, there's been quite a lot of swimming, hasn't there? 2 in Manchester, the 1 in London, of course, the big one, and now here in Glasgow. So 4 meets within, 6 or 7 weeks or so, or a bit more than that?
Every 4 weeks or so, there's been something of pretty high quality, and this, for the Olympic guys, this will obviously be their final tune-up, if you like, before they head out to Tokyo. But for the others, it's certainly been quite a ride every 4 weeks or so to be competing again, and in some cases without the best preparation that they may have had previously. So never mind the times, if you just look at what people are doing and how they're executing the swims, you can see there's a fair amount of fatigue going on. I think they'll welcome the respite, if you can call it that, of back to training after this weekend.
So we've got a big one coming up now, the senior final for the men's 100 breaststroke. All the big guns are here. Will go in 3, PT in 4, Murdoch in 5. We've also got some very talented swimmers either side of that. Was talking with Tim Jones last night when we were talking through the heats of it's tough for that next group of swimmers. You've got the big three, but you've got some very talented swimmers just behind them who at the moment don't really get much of a look in, do they?
It was ever thus, I think, in men's breaststroke in Great Britain, going all the way back to David Wilkie, through Duncan Gucci, through Adrian Moorhouse, through Nick Gillingham, and on till the more recent crop of Chris Gilchrist, Michael Jameson, Andrew
You're showing
Willis.
your age, Alan. You're showing your age.
Unbelievable legacy that these swimmers have left, which of course the torch being carried now by Adam Peaty, Ross Murdoch and James Wilby and others. Fantastic to see them here in Glasgow and swimming so well.
And you see them all there, making their way out, familiar faces, even behind the masks. So running through the lineup, Nick Quinn of Edinburgh University, another Irishman, goes in 1, then 3 from Loughborough National Centre, David Murphy in 2, James Wilby in 3, Adam Peaty in 4. Ross Murdoch from the University of Stirling goes in 5, Greg Butler of Loughborough University in 6, James McFadden, Loughborough University in 7, and Kyle Booth from the City of Cardiff in lane 8. 2 swimmers under the minute last night, 59 dead for Adam Peaty, 59.93 for Ross Murdoch. You certainly would expect James Wilby to go under the minute, you would think, this morning as well. He is 1:00:38 last night. And of course, you would expect there to be only one winner, but, well, you can't take anything for granted, although it's hard, really hard, to see such a consistent swimmer as Adam Peaty letting anyone go past him. When was he last beaten in the 100 breaststroke long course?
I'm sure he was, but I can't remember.
Way back in the day.
It seems crazy to say, given the standards that Adam has set, but 59.0 for him is pedestrian. For everyone else, it's world class. It's amazing.
Well, remember how excited we were a few years ago when people started breaking the minute. It just shows how he has just taken this event on leaps and bounds. And of course, there are a few international athletes in his weight now who will be trying to match him in Tokyo. But look, he's got a good advantage here at halfway, 27.14. Second place, Murdoch. Third place, Butler. So that's where the contest is going to be. We'll be joining that mix, as is Murphy as well in the white cap in lane 2. But it's Adam Peaty well clear at the front of this one. So as I said, 59 dead in last night's heats. The world champion, the world record holder, comes in a time of 58.22. So another job done, another exceptional swim, another good progression from heats to finals. James Wilby just edging second ahead of Murdoch, but just outside the minute, 1:00:05. So my predictions with him didn't quite transpire. 1:00:31 for Murdoch, 1:00:70 for David Murphy. That's exactly the same time as he did last night. But it really was the Adam Peaty show once again.
Yeah, you see these the rankings that pop up on your feeds and social media and what have you, and it's unbelievable. I think Adam has something like the top 20 performances ever in absolute time terms on the 100 breaststroke. It's just remarkable, the consistency. I was likening him to Ed Moses, the American hurdler, who was, I think, unbeaten for something like 100 or so races on the 400 hurdles. And Adam Peaty's got that sort of pedigree. He really is unstoppable on 100 breaststroke long course and on 50 breaststroke long course as well, although that's not an Olympic event.
Yep, a fine display there, and coming out to pick up his bag. He's another day at the office. Move on to the next objective.
Just off camera there, I'm not sure that how wide the shot was that people are seeing, but a lovely gesture, a lovely human gesture by Adam Peaty there to the timekeeper in his lane to say thank you. Very appreciative, all of these swimmers, volunteers, the timekeepers and so on. And I actually think that's Kiana McInnes's mum. We got a thank you from Adam Peaty. She's gone a wee bit red under her mask there, Duncan.
It's probably made her day.
It probably has. That was a really lovely gesture, and we shouldn't forget the fact that the people behind the masks are folk too, and they give up their time and energy as parents or as volunteers.
So the women's 200 fly coming out now. You saw Yasmin Perry and Sophie Freeman. Here's Emily Large from Bath National Centre, followed by Alice Thomas, Swansea University. She already has the Olympic consideration time. Now Laura Stevens, what a swim from her last night, 2:07.04. Fantastic stuff. Talking about McInnes's, Kiana going in lane 3. Lane 2, Kira Schlossen from the Bath National Centre, and Isabel Goodwin from City of Leeds in the yellow, familiar yellow of City of Leeds in lane 1. So there is the lineup. So 2:07.04 now. You have to do it in the finals, that's what the policy says. So can she replicate that 2:08.32 as the consideration time? So if she can get anywhere close to that 2:07.04 again, can any of the others do it? Alice Thomas, as we said, did it at the trials. Commonwealth champion for Wales, 5th in the Worlds back in 2019. McInnes wasn't too far away in the London trials. And Emily Large as well is a swimmer who's capable of big things in the 200 fly. Former world junior champion. So this one could be very interesting indeed, Alan.
I'm confident that Laura Stevens can do that time again. The question might be, can anyone else get under the standard, which would in itself be a great achievement. But I think that 2:07.04 took a lot of people by surprise last night. They knew it'd be a keen event, keenly contested event, but that really was a super swim from Laura, and she'll be looking for more of the same.
So Kiana McInnes pushing it out hard, just has the edge at the 50 mark, 29.26, but coming out of the turn, it does look like Alice Thomas just starting to press the accelerator and opening up maybe a half a metre gap, but plenty of black caps there in close proximity to her. Laura Stevens in lane 4, just edging into second. McInnes is up there, Schlossen is up there, and Emily Large not too far away either. So Thomas 1:02.37 at the halfway mark. She seems to get a little bit of an advantage out of the turns there over the others.
Yeah, she's got world-class underwater skills, Alice Thomas. Very much on display at the Commonwealth Games in 2018. Laura Stevens swam the second 100 of this event brilliantly last night, and she's looking to do the same thing again this morning.
She's coming back at Alice Thomas, certainly, as they go through the 150. There's only, well, in fact, she had the touch, 135.35, a tenth ahead of Alice. Coming out of the turn, not too much between them on that turn. So Laura Stevens now trying to push it hard, trying to replicate last night's swim. It's certainly between these two, Stevens in 4 and Thomas in 5. Third place is Emily Large now in lane 6, ahead of McInnes and Schlossen. But it's going to be Stevens, it looks like, who's putting it really strongly down this last length and coming in. Another great swim from her, 2:08.15. So that also is inside the Olympic consideration standards. So the 2:07 last night, 2:08 this morning, backing it up there. Surely she's going to be on the plane for that 200 fly now.
Well, she's done everything that's been asked of her. Great heat swim, backed up in the finals. I'm sure that will mean that she's booked her ticket. Of course, there is the women's medley team to consider as well, where we've got, if Laura makes it, 3 people vying for that spot. So extra competition, the team within the team.
So Alice Thomas second, 2:09.44. Emily Large in third, 2:11.39. But congratulations to Laura there, backing up the sensational swim she had last night with another great swim this morning. And I would imagine will be a very happy lady just now.
I think she's been smiling since she touched the wall last night.
Well, I think she might have just had to focus a wee bit while she raced that race. And she certainly did that.
Smile some of the girls as they climb out the pool about as slowly as the boys did.
Well, I think that's excusable after a 200 fly. That was really, really good to see that. Of course, she swam the fly leg in the medley relay for the British team in Budapest, where they picked up the gold. So she'd be maybe the one that they've got to dislodge the others if they're in that medley relay. If you fancy her, and certainly the form she's showing, you'd fancy her maybe for taking that fly leg again in Tokyo.
Yeah, she's probably in pole position for that, but I think the competition within the team is so strong. That's what makes, I think, this current crop of swimmers on the British swimming team so strong together, as they're competitive, they're supportive, always trying to make each other better, and seeing examples of that again this weekend.
Yeah, of course, Harriet Jones has the consideration time for the 100 fly, so she would certainly be thinking herself in contention for that as well. But let's move on now to the men's 200 fly, and we start with just the single A final here. And swimmers coming out there. The lineup: James Woodward will go in lane 1 for Hatfield. Mark Ford of the City of Glasgow in 2. That's him coming out now. Jacob Greeno of Bath University in 3. Jay Lelliott, City of Sheffield in 4. 5 is Ed Mildred of Northampton. 6, Michael Gunning of Stockport Metro. 7, Ruben Visder of City of Sheffield. And Cole Hewitt completes the field for Swansea University in lane 8. Not much in it last night between Lelliott and Mildred, both on 158s. So they take up the centre lanes. Have to get down to 155 to join Jimmy Guy in the Olympic team. He's decided to opt out from this one. We'll see him later in the 200 free.
Yeah, it's a really good time, 155. Of course, I should mention, I don't know if he listens to live streams when he's not commentating himself, but Stephen Parry swam 155 to take an Olympic medal, and that was way, 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 way back in the distant past. Well, not that long ago, Steve, but still.
Athens, was that?
Athens. Outstanding, outstanding swim at the time. Threatened the great man himself, Michael Phelps, right to the very end.
Mildred, of course, still a junior, and he will probably have his sights on Rome. 2 other juniors in this final: Mark Ford in lane 2 and Ruben Visder in lane 7. So a contest within the contest there, and certainly it's Ed Mildred, who's off to a fast start here in the blue cap in lane 5, up by a metre at the 50, 26.09. So with your European junior duties to come, Alan, you'll be keen on seeing how these juniors progress here?
Oh, very much so. The team beginning to take shape as the weekend unfolds. Ed Mildred, were he to be selected, which I'm sure there's a very strong possibility of, will be a key leader within that team, not just because of his swimming prowess, but also because of his leadership qualities.
56.22, so pretty much bang on the 30 seconds for his second 50. If he can hold this pace, this would be very impressive indeed. Got Jay Lelliott still within touch on him in the red cap in lane 4. Let's see whether he can make any ground in the second half. Third place, but a fair way back is Jacob Greeno in lane 3, just ahead of Michael Gunning, but well, it's still Mildred and still holding that advantage, 1:16.45, still pretty much on that 30-second split. But I think Lelliot might just mount an attack down this last lane, see if it can get anywhere close to Mildred. Well, not really making too much of an impression. Only 20-odd meters to go now, and it looks like Mildred is going to hold this one reasonably comfortably. One last push from Lelliot, but he's not going to get there. It's going to be Mildred. Really took it hard all the way through here and coming in on a 1:58. So just found it hard, I think, down that last 50, but well, faster by 8/10 on what he swam last night, so you have to be happy with that. Lelliot pretty much replicating his swim, and Greeno taking third, 2:02.69. But a good swim from Mildred, just perhaps slightly fading after really pushing it hard in the first 150, but has to be pleased with 1:58.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. Again, a lot of racing being done by some of these guys of late. Tough event to get the pacing absolutely right. It's a stroke which exists and flows when the rhythm is good, and as you get more and more tired and you begin to tense up, try harder, that really works against you on butterfly.
I mean, you look at Ed, and he's got relatively slight physique, obviously, because still a junior, so you wouldn't expect, absolutely a huge body strength, but getting out the pool, then you just see on the left of your screen, lots of physical development probably still to come here, so it's really at the moment doing it all. It's technique.
Oh yeah, he's got great technique, a great rhythm to his stroke, which is why he swims it so well. And of course, the bigger you are, the heavier you are, the more you have to pull that weight through the body, so he's certainly well suited to swimming 2 on a butterfly.
So some good stuff there, and we move now to 200 freestyle. We've got a B and an A final for the women. And there's going to be some interesting swims coming up here. Lots and lots of juniors in this B final. And then we've got the likes of Anderson, Hope, Van Selm, Hibbert. That, in fact, I think was the relay team, wasn't it, in Budapest, the 4x2. They're all here in the A final.
They are.
But here come the B swimmers out onto the blocks. That's your lineup. Katie Shanahan of the City of Glasgow in lane 1. Betsy Wizard of Northampton in 2. Erin Little of Mount Kelly College in 3. Evie Davis of Bromley in 4. Bea Varley of Plymouth Leandra in 5. Freya Colbert of Nova Centurion in 6. Lauren Wetherall of Ellesmere College in 7. And Isabel Goodwin of City of Leeds in 8. And Lauren had the 800 early on, so is that a bit of a tough ask to do the 200 later on the same session, or should she be able to cope with that? She's had an hour or so to recover.
Depends whether I'm being charitable this Saturday morning or not. No, it's a tough ask, all right. There's no question. That's not the problem. That's the challenge of 3-day meets. Is you have to have some doubling up of events, particularly if you're a freestyler and a middle distance freestyler at that.
203s for Davis and Varley. Just not quite fast enough to make it to the A final. They take the centre lanes here. Stephen Davis, 17-year-old. As well, a swimmer who's starting to really break through, a Scot based down in the southeast of England. Must be delighted with your Scottish hat on, Alan, of even Davis's progress over the last year or two.
Oh yeah, she really has emerged once we come out of lockdown, really out of COVID, to be an outstanding prospect this season. She swam at European Juniors a couple of years ago, as did several other girls in this and the next race And yeah, she's learning all the time. Great swims in London. Great opportunity to learn at European Championships in those relays.
Erin Little leading them out in the first 15. Just about still got the lead from Betsy Wizard. So it's lanes 3 and 2. 1:00:06, and then it's Evelyn Davis just behind them. Just trying to work through the gears now in the second half. And certainly this is going to be a tight one. In the green cap of Nova, Freya Colbert not far away, and beside her be Varley. So this is anyone's race now. There's 5 or 6 swimmers all in the mix. Like Betsy Wizard is taking them through the 150, 132.08. So there's going to be a scramble now. It's about sprint speed at the back of this now. Can Betsy hold off Evie Davis? She is the one, I think, who is putting in the charge now. And is she carrying this right now? Watch out for Erin Little. She is finishing quick as well in lane 3. So down into the final 10 meters. Let's see who's going to get this one. I think it's Wizard versus Davis as they come in now. Maybe Davis just going to nick it. So really timed that very nicely indeed to come through in that last 50 to take the win. 2:03.51, very similar to last night's swim. Betsy Wizard, having led for much of that race, has to settle for second, 2:03.86, and the fast finishing Erin Little in third, 2:03.98. So some interesting different tactics employed there, but Davis got it pretty much right.
Yeah, I think she did control that first 100 much more than perhaps she did last night in the heats, trying to get herself into the next race, the final. Be interesting. I was talking to some coaches last night during the warm-up for the heats of this session, what the strategies have been for the swimmers to compete in these finals in the morning. When did they get out of bed? What did they do? When did they have their breakfast? When did they come down to the pool to warm up? All of these things to be considered. Of course, every time you swim in a competition, but it's a little bit different with the flipped format. So some people, I think, really having learned on teams, youth teams, junior teams going away with England, Scotland, Wales, and of course Great Britain, and putting those strategies to good use.
So the A final will be coming up now. As I mentioned, the teams all here from the 4x2, and you certainly would think that the favourite here would be the European Championship bronze medalist Freya Anderson. She's only going in lane 3 here, third fastest qualifier, but looked very, very easy last night, 2:01. Fastest was Lucy Hope, 1:59.0 for her, and Tamara Van Selm, another youngster who has impressed hugely this year, the 17-year-old from Millfield. She's going in lane 5. Candy Saul also on a 2:01, as was Holly Hibbert. So interesting times here for these swimmers. The 1:57.2 is the under consideration time. Freya has that, but nobody else does. And there's the little question about whether they would send a 4x2 relay. Kate Clifton will go in lane 8. See how they're coming through. Emma Russell in 7. Here's the Loughborough Uni swimmer, Candice Hall. She goes to lane 6. Millfield's Tamarin Van Selm will take up position in lane 5. Lucy Hope from the University of Edinburgh making her way into lane 4. There's Freya Anderson, Bath National Centre. Moving to lane 3. Next to her, Holly Hibbert of Bath University. In lane 2, and in lane 1, the Luxembourg swimmer from Edinburgh University, Monique Olivier. Expect to see her in Tokyo as well for Luxembourg. She was at Budapest for them. So confirmation of the lineup. Lucy Hope, the fastest qualifier. Certainly she'll be hoping that she can force a spot to Tokyo as part of well, what a sensational set of relay swims we saw from the girls of Britain at Budapest. So.
Yeah, I think a re-emergence of a strength in British swimming as relays in general. The men's slightly ahead of the women in terms of the prominence, and it's fantastic to see the women winning all those medals in Budapest. Just superb. Of course, the mixed teams benefit from strong women as well.
Of course, the women outgunned the men in Budapest. They were all gold, and the men had to settle for a couple of silvers. So.
Team within the team, as I mentioned.
So there you go. In a line out of the dive. Freya Anderson in 3 and Lucy Hope in 4. Lucy driving hard. She always is a fast down this first length. She's certainly doing that here. Emma Russell going well, so is Kate Clifton on the near side, but it's going to be Hope by a metre or so at the 50, 27.48. And it's Anderson in second place, and then tight for third. Van Salm and Hall just ahead of Hibbert. But, well, Lucy Hope really pushing it out strong here, Alan.
Yeah, again, we mentioned this, I think, with some other swimmers that they like to swim a particular way, and with Lucy, it's take things out strongly. It's not so much she's acting as the hare, that's just how her stroke and her tempo of her stroke enables her to swim. Some of the others are stronger and like to build up the speed, progress their effort, but you're going to have to do something to catch Lucy Hope here, because she looks as if she's pulling away rather than being caught. Yeah,
she was maybe just driving to try and get that individual time, 1:57.28. Let's see, 1:27.5, so well, she's got a chance. If she can really push this on now down this last length, can she really work it? Here comes Freya in lane 3. She is slightly catching Lucy now. This will be hurting for Lucy, I would think, at this stage, but can she drive on? Because Freya is on the case now. She's got it down to about a metre, but I think Lucy is going to hold her off. The question is, can she keep that pace going to get to the 1:57? Not quite, but that was a brave effort there from Lucy, who takes the win in 1:58.78. So good performance there from Lucy. Second place was Freya Anderson, 1:59.26. And Emma Russell, good swim from her out of lane 7 to come in a 2:00.91, very close to entry time of 2:00.63 that she did at trials. So that'll be a good swim there, just edging out Tamarin Van Selm. Just really found that hard down that last 50, Lucy, but she hung on bravely to take the win, but couldn't quite keep that pace of 30-second splits going down that last 50.
No, but it does bode well for her and perhaps for the relay squads in Tokyo. Of course, Abby Wood, who isn't in this race, but we know is very fast on the women's 200 free, having swum a 1:56 earlier this season.
And Freya, 1:59. She was faster than she was last night by nearly 2 seconds. I think she would have wanted to be a bit faster than that, or would she be happy enough with that for where she is?
I think they always want to be faster, don't they? No matter who you are, Michael Phelps or Federica Pellegrini, you want to be faster on 200 freestyle. But yeah, I think everyone at different stages. That's why I think we said at the start it's difficult to use times as the gauge here. I look at swimmers' faces when they finish. Obviously there's fatigue on their face, but their eyes got a dead giveaway in terms of whether they're happy or displeased, and I think most of them look pretty happy with their morning's work there. What a cracking race we have coming up just in a few short minutes. We get the men's equivalent of what we just saw there.
Yeah, we've got to wait a little bit for that because we've got a para final and a B final before we get to the A final with all the big guns. A fantastic swim from Cam Curl last night, wasn't he, to take lane 4 at 1:46.62. So he certainly posted a message to the selectors for the 4x2, you would think. But of course, the spots for the individual event have already been filled. But we start off with the para swimmers. We've got 3 of them going here. And it's going to be Tom Hamer in lane 4 from Burnley Bobcats, S14 swimmer. Louis Lawler, also S14, goes in lane 5 for City of Glasgow. And Lyndon Longhorn set a new S4 British record last night from Derwent's side in lane 6. One swimmer has withdrawn in this one, no Jack Milne, so just 3 swimmers here. Tom Hamer, silver medalist at Rio in the Paralympics, Commonwealth champion for England.
So I'm enjoying his breakfast this morning. Ready to go.
And Louis Lawler, 19-year-old from Glasgow, S14 swimmer. 1:57.03 is the consideration time for the S14s in this one. You would expect him to be on the plane anyway, but I'm sure he'd love to get that. Have to improve considerably from his 2:02 though that he did last night. But it'll be a good race, I would think, between Tom and Louis here. Both S14s and well matched. Contrasting styles though, Alan.
Well, contrasting stature. Louis is a giant of a young man and not as experienced, of course, as Tom. Looking to gauge his effort a little bit. Had a tough schedule, Louis, over the weekend, but Tom certainly set the pace there. If Louis is going to come anywhere close to him, he's going to have to regain some contact with the man out in the lead.
Yeah, Tom Hamer really pushing it hard here in the first half, and he's opened up a gap now of, what, 4 meters or so as we approach halfway. Takes them through in 58.05, advantage of 2.8. 1:00.89 for Louis, so I think we can wave goodbye to our 1:57 as far as Louis is concerned, but it'll be interesting to see whether Tom can get anywhere close to that. I suspect also 1:57 probably slightly outside what he's going to get here, but no doubt he's going to win the S14 contest. Of course, we still have to consider Lyndon's point situation. 1:28.79 and 1:31.53. Certainly Louis perhaps looking a little bit stronger in the second half. He's cut the lead a bit, but he won't catch Tom. And Tom's time 2:01 last night. Is he going to go under the 2? It's going to be close. Not quite. 2:00.35. Louis 2:03.33. Here is Lyndon. He's still got a way to go, length and a half. As I said, 3:34.46 for him last night. New British record. Took 3 seconds off his own British record because Britain doesn't have a great track record in S4. I think it should be fair to say, but Lyndon leading the way on that from a British perspective. Derwent's side, very experienced swimmer, 26-year-old. Final turn for him, 2:39.84. So he would need to come back in, what, a 54 or thereabouts for his final 50 if he's to improve on last night's swim. Working it hard down this last length. That's the halfway markers. So don't have a running clock to help us here, so We'll just have to wait till he stops the clock and see what the time tells us. But he's had a pretty good meet. He's been improving his times pretty consistently across a range of events. I think he might be getting a little bit tired. He's got quite a lot of swimming. But let's see what he can come in on here. 3:36.03, so not quite as fast as he was last night, but another good effort. That was inside his previous British record, but not quite as fast as last night. But a good effort there from Lyndon. But Tom Hamer, you would expect that will be the winner on para points as well. We'll find that out shortly. 2:00.35, Louis 2:03.33, Lyndon 3:36.03. So we start now to focus on the able-bodied swimmers. We have a B final and an A final. B final will have Callum Jarvis at the front, lane 4. Of course, very experienced one from Bath, Welshman, 29 now. And he has been named on the team for Tokyo. Has represented Wales at the last 2 Commonwealth Games. Medalist in Glasgow in 2014. There's the lineup. Jacob Goodman of Loughborough University is in 1. Kieran Bird of Bath National Centre in 2. Will Riley, Bath University in 3. Callum Jarvis, Bath National Centre in 4. Charlie Brown, Loughborough University in 5. Thomas Watkin of City of Sheffield in 6. Harry Constantine from Hatfield in 7. And Josh Williams, Wickham District in lane 8. 150 to 152, the range of times last night. So it could be pretty much wall to wall across the pool in this one, Alan.
Yeah, I think it will be in this and possibly the next race. Duncan, great to see the strength and depth, of course, in this event. Another feature of the last, probably 25, 30 years in British swimming, perhaps longer. Men's 4x200 freestyle relay as far back as 1976, winning an Olympic medal in Montreal. I know you're going to question my age again.
Yeah, you were only, 25 in 1976, something like that?
Yeah,
in your prime.
That. I deserved that, yeah. I was in short trousers then. I'm still in short trousers.
Nothing wrong with short trousers.
Well, there isn't, if you go to school in Moffat, apparently. Yeah, a young man was told not to wear short trousers to school, so he turned up the next day in his sister's skirt.
As you do.
Which is not against the rules, apparently. So, as they say in Yorkshire, there's naught as queer as folk.
Yeah. So Moffat in the borders. Not with a great swimming tradition, that town, as far as I'm aware.
No.
If you're from Moffat and you know different, let us know. But here we go. The B final for the men's 200 freestyle. So, reminder of the field: Jacob Goodman in 1, Kieran Bird in 2, Will Riley in 3, Callum Jarvis in 4, Charlie Brown in 5, Thomas Watkin in 6, Harry Constantine in 7, Josh Williams in 8. Start right up at the top of your screen from Jacob Goodman, but as they hit the wall, it's up lanes 5 and 6. And 7, in fact, Harry Constantine with the touch, 25.41. Well, we said it would be across the board, but there's 4 or 5 of them anyway who are doing that. There's a couple maybe just slightly back. See who's going to get the touch this time. I think it might be Goodman in lane 1. It is 53.33. Second, Tom Watkin. Harry Constantine right with him as well. And starting to push on Charlie Brown now in lane 5. So let's see who's going to get the touch this time. It might be Goodman again. It is. So he's really having a nice time over in lane 1, 1:21.84. Let's see if he can hold it down this final length.
Here comes Callum.
So Callum Jarvis, as you said, making his late push. Charlie Brown on his right-hand side, still right there with him. These two trying to catch Goodman on the far side, but it's Goodman still has the edge. Callum Jarvis getting close to him, but can't get there. 1:50.03 for Goodman. Great swim from the outside lane there. If you've got a lane, as they say, you've got a chance. Second, Callum Jarvis, 1:50.24. So he improves by 4/10 from last night's swim. Charlie Brown, 1:50.93, taking third, also inside time from the heat. So some nice progressions from those guys from heats to finals.
Yeah, it was great race. A little bit of tactical pacing and control from Callum Jarvis. Lane number 4, not quite able to overhaul Jacob Goodman, but almost an even-paced swim from him. And here it comes again, another feature event, as it was in the London trials, the final of the men's 200 freestyle. What a lineup.
Yep, we'll see them coming on shortly. And well, you can start thinking about your predictions, Alan, as to how this is going to work out. I'll ask you that in a moment or two. As we just...
Nobody's listening, right? So I'll not be held to account.
Of course not, of course not. What happens in Glasgow doesn't stay in Glasgow. I'm sorry.
I can only see you. I'm imagining it's just us talking here. I can't imagine there's anyone listening to this at all, apart from the folk who are sending messages to me on my phone.
Yeah, no, I think there's swimming fans around Britain who are listening to us, and it's great to have you with us this Saturday morning. Don't feel that you have to go out and do any fun things on a Saturday or get out in the garden. You'd be much better watching the live stream throughout the day. So here comes the lineup. That is Stephen Milne of University of Stirling making his way to lane 8, course Olympian in Rio. Jacob Whittle of Deventio in lane 7. Lane 6, Duncan Scott from the University of Stirling. So not hugely fast last night, but he did the same in the 200 IM and won it. See what he does here. Tom Dean in lane 5 from Bath National Centre. Lane 4, Cam Kerr. What a swim he had last night. And Max Litchfield beside him. Second swim of the morning for him. James Guy going to lane 2, and there is Matt Richards from the Bath National Centre in lane 1. So we talked about doubling up in the 800 and the 200 now, 400 IM and the 200 for Max Litchfield, so that'll test his fitness. Carl, as we said, a storming swim, 1:46.62 last night. Tom Dean, Duncan Scott, what a race they had in London, with Tom Dean running Duncan Scott very close indeed and pushing Duncan to the British record. So how do you see this playing out? It's time to reveal your predictions.
Well, I predict it won't be as fast, but it'll be just as exciting. I think that Duncan Scott might let other people set the pace and then dominate, as he has done so many times on the second half of the race. And of course, we saw him win the European Championships here in 2018 from the outside lane, so he's not afraid of taking the pace out. But I suspect this time around he may want to be the man emerging from the pack rather than setting the pace. But I've been wrong before. Just don't tell my wife.
I'm sure she never tells you you're wrong.
She hasn't done yet today, anyway.
So let's see how this one plays out. Richards, Guy, Litchfield, Curl, Dean, Scott, Whittle and Milne. Pretty strong start from Tom Dean in the white cap in lane 5. Stephen Milne starting quite strong in lane 8, and beside him Jacob Whittle. But it's going to be Dean leading them through the 50. Time of 24.50. Beside him, a very nice turn from Cam Curl there. And so he is right with Tom Dean. Starting to show is Jimmy Guy in lane 2, and Scott there is certainly perhaps where he would like to be in lane 6 now, coming up alongside the leading group. But well, it's Curl now who has moved into the lead, 51.39. So how's the second half going to play out? Curl with perhaps half a meter's lead, but that is shrinking fast now as Duncan Scott makes his move. Tom Dean perhaps trying to go with him, but it looks like Scott now in lane 6 has got the advantage. The British record holder, as I said, set in London, bronze medalist in the World Championships, and he is now up by a metre or so, 1:18.75 split. Can anyone challenge him down this final length? Well, Curl is not out of it. Training partner in Sterling. Also still going well in lane 2 is James Guy and Dean as well. But it's going to be Scott here in the... Well, it's not as... It's fairly tight, but not really in doubt. 1:46.02. So within a second and a half of that British record swim in London. Second, Tom Dean by 300ths over James Guy. Well, I'll have to say you called that pretty much perfectly as to how that was going to work out. Take a gold star.
Yeah, can you also phone my wife and tell her I was right again?
She won't believe me.
No, she won't. That was pretty much as I expected. I think when we see Duncan racing this event in Tokyo, I don't think he'll be as cagey. I think he'll want to set the pace, dictate the pace. Not necessarily at the front of the race all the way, but I think there are other people who'll be in that Olympic final who are a bit quicker down that first 50, and Duncan won't need to be first to the first turn, but he'll certainly aim to be first to get his hands on the wall as he was there. So, yeah, Tom Dean will not be far away from that podium either, I would imagine. It'd be fantastic to get both of them standing up there in Japan.
And another good backup swim from Cam Curl there, another 1:46, backing up what he did last night. So he's maybe putting himself into contention to bolster that 4x2 squad.
Yeah, there's no point in us speculating. The selectors, I'm sure, are poring over all the possibilities, the permutations. There's no question that any 4 of the swimmers from this final, or indeed the final in London, could be put together and make that Olympic final.
So how do you see the 4x2 relay shaping up? Of silver medal in Budapest. The Russians, was it beat them? I can't remember.
Yeah. I still think that we're very strong contenders for a medal, indeed for winning the gold medal. We're not quite sure what kind of squad the Americans have put together. We know they're always strong, but this time around they certainly won't have Phelps, and not certain whether at all they'll have Lochte, but the other 4 guys who are capable of swimming well. They might end up with Caleb Dressel in the 4x2 team, which obviously would be, in my view, a risk for them, because he has a massive programme as well. But in the end, yeah, I think we've got a really strong chance of a medal, if not winning the whole thing in Tokyo. And everyone will need to be at their tip-top best, and races like that we've just witnessed are very much a part of that preparation programme.
So we finish off with 50 backstroke, women up first. There will be 2 swimmers going in para-final. Ellie Challis making her way out here. S3 swimmer from Clacton. And beside her from University of Stirling, S13 swimmer Abby Kane. So this won't be close at all in terms of time, but well, we'll see how it works out in terms of para points. Of course, for Abby, this is not a Paralympic event of the S13s, but it is for Ellie. She'd have to go under the minute. Has the British record 55.61 that she set in Manchester in the first of the post-lockdown events. So it'll be interesting whether she can go faster than that today. She also won the event at the second Manchester event, British Swimming Invitational Meet.
Just if I may direct viewers and listeners' attention to a video, a series that's just launched on Amazon Prime. If you have it, Head Above Water, a story about some swimmers in Australia who'll be well known to some of us: Ian Thorpe, Carl Chalmers, and Bronte Campbell, and a young man called Cody Simpson, who some people might know better as a pop star. Just launched on Amazon Prime. If you have it, get your eyes on that. It's fantastic. Don't get many films or series about swimming, so watch it.
So that tie for Ellie, just to allow her to position herself nicely for the start. And of course the traditional start for Abby. Showing some nice technique off the start there. And well, we're not going to have the two swimmers in the one shot for very long, so we can focus first of all on Abby. Did a 33.65 last night, so let's see if she can improve on that. Came into the meet at 33.23, so she'd like to get close to that. Just a little slower than last night, 34.28. Now here's Ellie. There's three swimmer, as I said, 58.31 last night. So did the para consideration time last night, but as with the able-bodied swimmers, would want to do it in a final. So let's see, can she go under the minute? Can she go under the 58 she did last night? Not quite, no. 102.44 for Ellie this morning. And we'll see how that translates to points shortly. Just talking about points, just updating the women's 100 breaststroke para points. Maisie over the 1,000 points, 1,030 for Maisie Summers-Newton, time of 134.01. And Ellie Simmons was second with 833 points, and Grace Harvey third, 792. So some good point scoring there. And in the men's 100 breaststroke, Scott Quinn's time was 953 points, 107.40. Conor Morrison was second, 875 points on 109.35, and Gavin Roberts. So it was the S14s who are 1, 2, 3, 814 points for Gavin, with his time of 111.03. And we'll update you on the points shortly on the race we've just seen. So the women's 50 backstroke, Dawson versus Davis, should be an interesting one.
Yeah, keen rivals for a long time. Obviously, Kathleen has had the emergence this year of her leading world-class times, but Georgia's a tough competitor, great skills off the start, and I'm sure they'll be battling it out on this 50.
So Rachel Saunders and Tatiana Tostevin coming out to the blocks. Here is Leah Whitaker from Mount Kelly. There's Georgia Davis, representing Swansea University. And Kathleen Dawson going to lane 4 for the University of Stirling. Her teammate beside her, Cassie Wilde. Lane 2, Sophie Shaw of Mid Sussex. And lane 1, Kate Mills from Loughborough University. So Georgia Davis.
Great memories of this pool. Won the European Championships here in this very lane.
She did a 27.92 last night. Kathleen slightly faster, 27.67. Set the British record from Georgia at the European Championships, silver medalist. I think 200s faster than the old record that Georgia had.
It was, and that record Georgia set in the aforementioned European Championships here.
Kathleen's hardly put a foot wrong this season in backstroke events. Certainly, I think she was the favourite here, but Georgia might have a point to prove.
Of course, there were rivals in the ISL last autumn, competing for rival teams.
So let's see how this works out. And of course, we've got Cassie Wilde, who's had that superb 200 backstroke in Budapest and is on the team on the 100 as well. But it is going to be Dawson versus Davis, and it's tough to call at the moment. Maybe Dawson just has the advantage coming down 10 meters to go. She's up by perhaps half a meter. Davis there and Wilde behind her, but it is Dawson who takes the win in 27.64 within half a second of that British record. 28.07 for Georgia and 28.43 for Cassie, with Sophie Shaw fourth, Leah Whitaker just 100th behind her in fifth. So 27.64. Just slightly faster than she was last night by 300. So progression is progression. And of course, as we said, not an Olympic event. So really, I guess that was a test of the speed and just to sharpen up for going hell to leather down 50 meters of the pool.
Yeah, it's always interesting, the decisions that are made well above our pay grade, Duncan, about what events are on programmes, and 50 metres on all the form strokes are events in Commonwealth Games and European Championships and Pan-Pacific Championships, World Championships, but not in the Olympics. And we understand the reasons that are given for that, but it's a shame because some people really are specialists over the sprint event, just like they are in other cycling and track running and so on. Unfortunately, not the opportunity to win Olympic medals on those 50s.
Maybe one day.
Maybe, although looks like we'll be underwater whistling before that happens.
Okay, one more race to go. It's the men's 50 backstroke, so no para final in this one. So we've got the able-bodied swimmers. Liam White for Swansea University in lane 7. David Castelli in lane 6 for City of Cardiff. Tim Walton for the University of Stirling in lane 5. Scott Gibson of Edinburgh University in lane 4. There's Cameron Brooker of Wickham District, who will go in lane 3. Pool's Robbie Hemmings in lane 2. And Nick Pyle from the University of Stirling goes in lane 1. So we've had a late withdrawal here, so no swimmer in lane 8. Other than that, it's as we thought. Gibson, the fastest qualifier last night, 25.76 from Martin Walton. Cameron Brooker. Again, I think this is going to be a pretty tight affair. final race of the second day's finals. About to be run. Out of the start, not too much to call between them. Real fast stroking going on. Martin Walton and Scott Gibson, and we Edinburgh Stirling contest going on in the middle lanes. Is it going to be between those two? Nick Pyle also, and is it Nick? No, in fact it's Martin Walton who gets it 25.62. I thought it would be close, it certainly was. Scott Gibson in second, and Nick Pyle, who I thought with 3 meters out might get it, was only third, but only just ahead of Cam Brooker as well, and Xavier Castelli. So really, really tight stuff. In fact, I was thinking it was a tie, but it wasn't. 26.05 and 26.07 for 6th and 7th. Nice way to finish. Good tight contest. Martin Walton will be happy to have just got the touch first there.
Yeah, that was literally the epitome of throw a blanket over them. It was really tight at the finish, but I'm sure Martin will be pleased to get his hand on the ball, get the win, pretty much on what I think both he and Scott Gibson have done. Nick Pyle returning to form a little bit this weekend too, not just on backstroke, but a good medley swim the other day.
So that brings us to the end of our second set of finals. Another successful day, I think, for British swimmers. Highlights of the morning?
Top swim for me, I think, probably was Max Litchfield's 400 IM, matched just a few minutes before by Abby Wood. It's hard not to put Adam Peaty at the top of your list because he still remains the standard, gold standard, in fact, on men's breaststroke. So that was fantastic for him. Delighted to see Laura Stevens get under the standard for the Olympic standard for the women's 200 fly again, and the 200 freestyles, men and women, didn't disappoint. Obviously delighted for Duncan Scott to take the men's, and also for Lucy Hope to hold off the fast finishing Freya Anderson in the women's version. So yeah, great morning swimming, it has to be said, and much more to come. The heat's tonight, isn't it?
Heat's tonight, finals tomorrow. Yeah, and of course we've got the juniors to come before that, so do sign in for that. First opportunity, as we said yesterday, for some of the junior swimmers to get themselves going, because they took full advantage of that last night, yesterday afternoon I should say, and they'll be doing it again later on this afternoon. So we look forward to your company once again, but for now, I'm Duncan McKinnell, and from myself and Alan Lynn, we'll wish you a good morning from Tollcross.
Whatever your day holds, you need a breakfast that helps you get up and go. Up.
And go, go, go.
Up. And go. A delicious breakfast shake made with oats and milk. High in fibre, high in protein, high in calcium. Start right with Up and Go. The official breakfast partner of British swimming. Find us in the cereal aisle.
Sim-only plans? There are always so many tempting options. So you jump headfirst into a long contract, which keeps you locked in for 12 months.
Somebody let me out!
At Labara, we offer great credit plans and total flexibility. You can get 10 gigs of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £10 a month. And you can change or cancel anytime.
Now I feel free.
Buy now at labara.co.uk.
Attention please. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Not all supplements are created equal. At Healthspan, our omega-3 oil is sustainably sourced from the South Pacific Ocean. We find our turmeric in the southern slopes of India. And our cod liver oil comes from the cold, crisp seas off Greenland. We work hard to seek out the best ingredients for our supplements, because that's the HealthSpan way. We're healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements in-store or direct to your door.
The latest in tech suit innovation. Frictionless fiber construction. Surface lift technology. Endo compression cage. Seamless exo shell. Here, Vinzo.